Hi, I'm Sharaad Kuttan and welcome to Let's Talk, the show that brings you the most important conversations of the day. And what could be more important than our insides, our interiors, our emotional states, and the way in which that reflects back onto the world. I'm very pleased to have with me Petrina Eger. She is with the Life Skills team at Taylor's University. Petrina does the mindfulness component of the curriculum, and that's why you're here. Thank you so much, Petrina, for joining me. Let me understand a little bit more about you as a person and how you've come to kind of work in this field of mindfulness as part of a skills training for young people. Tell us a little bit about your story.
Yeah, my students are always surprised when I tell them that I studied engineering in university.
Wow, is it like what? Chemistry, chemical engineering?
Environmental.
Environmental
engineering. So sustainability related. And at some point, luckily, I got laid off. I was really excited to...
So you were already working in the field?
I was working, yeah. Yep, and I had moved through different positions of like field work, and then I was more like at a computer doing data analysis, and I was like, not quite the right fit for me.
Right.
So when the contract ended, I had this opportunity to go. And so I decided to travel, and it's lots of young people's dream to just pack up their bags and go wherever they'd like to go.
And where did they take you? You're from Minnesota in the United States?
Yes, that's right.
And
it's very cold.
It's very cold, I understand.
So
and some
course,
brilliant television shows. Fargo was a great movie,
Yes.
and then it's brilliant television set in Minnesota, isn't it?
Yes, it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, so where did you go from Minnesota? What is it about your own background? Was there something in your upbringing that was pushing you in a particular direction?
I've always been interested in volunteer work, so I wanted to explore a little bit outside the US and do some international volunteer work. So I ended up in Asia, where it's nice and warm. And
well, not all of Asia is warm, but okay. Yeah, but so where in Asia exactly did you land?
So the first place was India, then went up through Nepal and into Thailand. And these are places where they have a lot of this kind of mindfulness practice in their cultures. And so I was really curious, and I realized I'm living this dream of not having to work, being able to go wherever I want, and I'm not as happy as I thought I would be. Right. So still having a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. You're sitting on the most beautiful beach that you can imagine, and you're not really there. Right. Your mind is somewhere else. Right. And I was like, what is going on? This is very interesting. And so I ended up finding a meditation practice. So I went to some monasteries, started in Thailand, and then went to Myanmar, and really looked at what is going on. Because we often don't realize that our mind is the most powerful thing. It's controlling so much of our experience, so much of our life. Right. And if we don't know what it's doing, we're kind of just being led around like a puppet.
Okay. Before we get to Asia and what you were learning there, I mean, America itself had been experimenting in the 60s with Asian traditions of meditation and yoga and all kinds of sometimes chemically driven, mind-altering experiences. Were you ever plugged into that? Were your parents from the 60s generation that kind of like plugged into that? Or was that not something you didn't have anything to do with?
Not so much, just like the environmental part of that. Both of my parents worked in conservation and energy efficiency, and so like that part of like a bigger awareness rather than just yourself. Right. But not too much of the other parts.
Okay, so then you landed in India and you moved to Nepal and Thailand, you said. As you said, that there are local and very ancient traditions. What exactly were you attracted to?
Attracted to something different. I didn't know how to stop. I feel like maybe it's a worldwide problem, but I would sit on the bus and I would do something, right? Like you can never just sit still. If you sit still, you're lazy and there's something wrong. So just being able to be still was an amazing thing. Like just don't do anything. What am I supposed to do? Right? And just sit.
Right. I mean,
take a break.
We live in very industrial cultures that give value to work and constant work as a meaning of or getting approval from society. And like you say, yes, but there must be a difference between being lazy and a layabout and being still in a meditative way, no?
Yeah.
Okay,
Definitely.
and what would be?
We have something, because culture has taught us, don't be still, right? Time is money. You must do something. I feel like people often have this resistance to being still, and it can be uncomfortable. Do you watch people whenever they get bored, where's my phone, right? We're just not used to it.
Right.
Yeah, but I think it's very important.
Right. So what was the entry point for you? So this was the general sense you had of your world and you yourself in it. You said sitting on a beach, beautiful beach, and yet being unhappy or being fidgety or, you know. Where were you being led to in terms of a particular practice or a particular institution? What happened?
So I went to, they have these traveler meetings, and I was in Chiang Mai in Thailand. I went to a meeting, sat next to someone who was going to Myanmar to live in a monastery. And I was just like, okay, can I join you? Would that be possible? He said, yeah, sure, let me email the monk and ask if you can come. And so that was how it happened.
Okay, so I know Myanmar has a tradition of the Vipassana school of, and maybe this is a caricature, but it would be like sitting still and silent for days on end. Is that where you went? Did you end up in that?
I had done that before in Thailand and found it really difficult because it is just 10 days often is the standard, and they just throw you in and they wake you up at 4 a.m. and they don't give you food after 12 o'clock, and it's quite a shock. So this monastery it's a monastery, so people are living there. Right. So it's a little bit more relaxed. You can speak, but we try to just have intentionality about everything that we do.
Explain that. What does that mean? What does it mean to have intentionality?
Well, the thing with speaking is often when we talk, why are we talking? What's the point of these words?
This is what I ask myself every day when I'm on this show, but okay, let's go.
So, like, what's the intention behind speaking, you know? So, if you're at a monastery, are you gossiping about something that might not be the best use of your time? Would you talk about something that's a little bit more related to the study or to the journey that you're on, like why you're there?
Right, so this was a Buddhist monastery.
It was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so what does Buddhism provide in terms of either a conceptual framework or a physical practice that allows you to go further in that particular journey?
Well, I feel like the teachings of the Buddha were so extensive. It's one of the ways that I've been exposed to really like such detailed information about the mind and how it works and how we can learn to work with it in a different way.
Okay, so was your trip to the monastery, was it longer than you expected it to be?
It was. I extended, actually.
Okay,
yeah.
and then what happened after that? Tell us.
And then after that, I decided to continue with my volunteering aspirations. So I was a project manager in the Philippines. So they just had a typhoon, and it wiped out a lot of the seaweed farms. And so these people really, that's their floating bank account. If you take away the seaweed farm, like the ocean, they're going to be in trouble just to buy rice and daily necessities. So I went there as a project manager to help them get a grant, to help them rebuild their farms. And it was very interesting. And I kept the mindfulness practice with me while I was there and realized how important that was. Because I go in there as an engineer, I need data, I need to write a report, I need to get you money. That's not the way, actually, to connect with people. And that was just so clear there that my first job actually is to connect with people and to help people. And the mindfulness helped me do that, like stepping back a little bit and being able to
so
see.
that's interesting because it seems like, people will say, well, you went and you helped people in a very material way. I mean, yes, it might involve projects and grant writing and stuff like that. That's a very practical thing.
Yeah.
Lots of good stuff comes out of it. But you're saying, well, actually, your first duty was, or purpose was to actually connect with people. How do you make what is that? The connecting with people and the making their lives better?
Yeah.
How does it work?
I'm not sure exactly, no. But I mean, if you need something from people, you need information from them, they're more likely to help you if you're their friend, right? If we have this human connection, it's one of the most basic things, right? We connect with people. We don't always connect with something else. So that seemed to just be really evident, especially in a community where there's one TV and there's 20 people outside the house watching the TV. And they would share so many things with people. They're always sharing food, anything they had.
Right, so you want to go beyond the kind of instrumentalization of the relationship that you were there as a volunteer with a function, but you're also a person and you want to relate to them. Right. Okay.
Because as one person, how am I going to fix, this issue of, climate change that's causing these bigger typhoons, and that's such a big thing, I feel a little bit overwhelmed. But when I can just focus on me as a person and how I can connect with other people, it's like this ripple effect.
Okay, we'll take a short break and we'll come back to how you landed in Malaysia 5 years ago. Okay, stay tuned to Let's Talk. Welcome back to Let's Talk. I'm Sharaad Kuttan. With me, Petrina Eger from the Life Skills team at Taylor's University. She works on mindfulness, and it's a concept that I don't know much about, and I really want to get to know more about it. So, but we had a story then. We were telling us about the seaweed farm and, you know, climate change and communities in need and distress. And you brought in this other dimension, which is about relationships, about you and those people. How did you go from the Philippines and end up here in Malaysia for 5 years?
Crutches. The short version, yes.
Okay.
So I went on to learn more about mindfulness in different ways and did some unlimited yoga. And like most people, I overdo things. And so I injured myself and ended up on crutches and needed a good place to recover. And Malaysia was the place.
Right. Yeah, it's a very funny thing about yoga is that it's been incorporated into ways which is stripped of its philosophy, and it's become like a competition almost, hasn't it? For some people.
As well.
Fitness,
yeah.
right? It's a kind of fitness thing, right? Okay.
So I kind of missed the point on that. Yes.
Okay. So while you were on crutches and looking for a place to convalesce, you found Malaysia.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I'd always, I don't know, since the first time I came to Malaysia, it's a wonderful place.
Okay.
Yeah. So I came back.
And allowed you to take your mindfulness practice further? Could you explain that? Because you said you picked up skills, you went places. Tell us a little more about that.
Yeah, so when I got to Malaysia, I met someone who does the more secular version of mindfulness. So this is something that was started in the US in the 1980s by John Kabat-Zinn, who's now he's a medical doctor at the University of Massachusetts. And so I realized that was a very different way of learning and a different way of teaching people about these skills, and that really spoke to me. So I did a course here with a psychologist, and then went on to do my teacher's training in mindfulness and become certified.
Right, okay. So this is interesting because you use the word secular, and I understand that you could have mindfulness within the context of a religious framework or a religious worldview with its own notions, and this is sort of extracting the essence of that and making it something that doesn't have any kind of religious component. Would that be correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so tell us, now for so this is the big thing. What is mindfulness?
Yeah, so the most definitions of mindfulness are about paying attention to what's happening right now. So we have this amazing ability to be time travelers. Our mind can be anywhere in the future, anywhere in the past, but we're very rarely in the present.
So we got distracted, is that what it?
Yeah, apparently 47% of the time.
Distracted.
That's what Harvard research says. And when we're distracted, we're not as happy because we have this tendency to focus on the bad things, right? Our stress, what's going wrong, what might go wrong, and it just makes us not as happy as we could be.
Right. Is that a species thing? Or are we kind of like monkeys kind of looking around, looking for danger signs, predators? Or, I mean, where does the distraction first come from?
Well, the fear part, they call it the negativity bias, and it's an evolutionary advantage. If you're more vigilant and more aware of potential dangers, you're going to live longer than if you're just happy-go-lucky, like, oh, let's go over here. You might get eaten by a tiger.
Right, okay. So it's a good thing.
Yes.
But then you're saying we should find a way to go beyond that.
Yes, because we don't have those kind of threats now. We have threats like an email or a presentation or a conflict with someone that we care about. We're not actually going to be physically harmed, hopefully, by most of these situations like the emails and things.
Right.
But our brain still goes into that fight or flight stress.
Right.
So mindfulness is a way that we can start to notice what happens and kind of counter that with some practices.
Okay. Now, tell us a little bit about the cultural side of it. I mean, obviously some ancient cultures have been very aware of this problem, and it's, and you see it in yoga and that. What was that secular attempt, the doctor that you mentioned from MIT, what was he trying to do in picking up on these lessons and producing a different framework which to understand it?
So he laughs now. It's like, in the 80s, I thought people were stressed. But look at us now, like so much stress. So his focus is stress reduction. So the program that he created is called mindfulness-based stress reduction. And he was really looking at people that are slipping through the cracks of the medical system. So many people are struggling with health problems, and medical is just not able to support them.
Right. By medical, you mean pills and
Yeah.
those kind of invasive type procedures.
Right.
Okay.
So many of the medical conditions are caused by stress.
Right. So
Yeah.
stress actually is one of the reasons why we get sick, potentially.
If it's this fight or flight kind of stress.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what did you discover? Was it an easy thing? Well, I'll just go look through some yoga manuals and then, and dispense it to my students or my patients, and they will be better.
I forget where he studied. I believe it was in Nepal. That he did study in monasteries and did a lot of yoga practice. And then he found ways to integrate that into a clinical setting. So he does 8-week programs where people go through a range of different skills, including yoga, to help them to learn more about their mind and learn about their conditions and how to really support themselves.
Okay, so that was a clinical environment, and he was finding a way of using this for his patients and to do good. What about you? You're an engineer.
Yeah.
How did you what problem are you trying to solve with mindfulness?
Oh, there's so many benefits of it. So I came to it because of stress and anxiety, and really just wanting to be happier, realizing that there's so many things that I'm creating problems for myself in a lot of ways, right? This thing that's going to happen next week is not a problem yet, but I can make it a problem. Right? And the things that happened before, I can spend a lot of time dwelling on them, but it's more productive to have more choice about where I put my attention, where I spend my time.
Okay, so this was a personal quest then.
It was.
But it's
Yeah.
become something more than a personal quest, hasn't it?
Right. Yeah, because I found it so beneficial to me that I wanted to help other people. And so when this opportunity came to me to join Taylor's University, I was like, wow, that's a lot of people that we can touch. Because it's all first semester students go through this program. So we see about 2,000 students each semester. And we can help them to start learning about their emotions, learning about their minds in the context of emotional intelligence.
Right, okay, that's very interesting, because when I went to university in the mid-'80s, nobody was telling you that stress was bad. In fact, if you weren't stressed out, you're probably not going to make it to the top of your class. But okay, we'll take a short break and we'll be back with more. Stay tuned to Let's Talk. Welcome back. I'm Sharaad. With me, Petrina. She's from the Life Skills team at Taylor's University, looking at mindfulness. And I feel at this point in time, I should speak much, much slower in order to kind of like get into this zone that I think you're coming from. So, Petrina, tell me. I'm very interested in the fact that the university has taken on board not just life skills, it could be a whole range of practical things, including cooking and learning how to, get around in the city, to something like EQ, emotional, intelligence and mindfulness. Do you know a little bit about why the university would even provide this?
Right. So the life skills that we teach are emotional intelligence. And the reason why is because it's becoming so important, especially as we're getting more and more into the fourth industrial revolution, with so much technology, that what the employers say is lacking in graduates are these people skills. The ability to also know more about themselves, to manage themselves, and then to be able to manage relationships.
I mean, the market is telling you this. I mean, industry and enterprises are saying, giving you feedback and saying people lack emotional intelligence.
Yeah.
That surprises me, because I think that most industry are themselves not cognizant of this. But as you're saying, they are.
I mean, we're seeing that more as people are more and more connected to screens. We can say things on screens and it's misinterpreted. People connection is still so important. And it's a skill that's maybe not being developed as much in the younger generation. So we would like to help them to boost them up and make them more team players, better able to work with their emotions, because there are always emotions in the workplace. We might like to pretend that there aren't, but we're all people, and we'll get triggered by things or upset about things, and how can we really manage that to have more effective workplaces?
Yeah, you might want to work with some of our politicians, but okay, I'll put that aside. Could you explain a little bit about the whole where mindfulness fits into the life skills curriculum. You just tell us how it works.
So the base of emotional intelligence is personal awareness. So like what is happening with me, what's going on? And then we go up to self-management. So when I know what's happening, then I can manage. And then we build up onto the relationship components of that. So mindfulness is really about that self-awareness. So knowing more about what's going on in your mind, what's going on in your emotions, as well as what's going on in your body.
Right. So kids are sitting in a classroom. You have an overhead projector with all these kind of like, statements about the way the world works and how they work. And then they just sit there and they copy down and they make sure that they pass the exam and they say the right thing. I mean, what exactly goes on in a class?
So we do much more interactive learning. So we really want students to experience something and then reflect on the learning that can come out of that. So we do lots of different activities when we teach them about team building or conflict resolution. We teach them about decision making. And then we also teach them about the personal components like mindfulness or acknowledging your emotions and why it's important to know your emotions, not just, okay, fine, which is the response we usually get when we ask people, how are you?
Do kids resist?
It depends. Like at the beginning, they're a little bit like, what is this all about? But they really enjoy it. And they really enjoy making friends. That's one of the key things in the class, that they're always in groups talking, discussing, sharing things. They learn from each other more than they learn from us, perhaps.
Right. Okay, see, team building as an expression is something, and as an activity I can know, and I think everybody's probably familiar at some point in time, they would be put into a team building process, and, they would have to like fall back and hope that, their teammates catch them and this kind of stuff, right? So that doesn't seem particularly out of the ordinary. I'm more interested in what mindfulness might give to that, which has already become a kind of de rigueur corporate team building exercise process,
Yeah. So more about noticing yourself, right? Like how am I feeling in this team?
Well, we notice ourselves when we look in the mirror.
Yes.
Now, is that what you mean? You can't mean that, no.
The inside part. Like, how am I feeling in this team? What is my role in this team? What kinds of strengths do I have? What can I give to this team? Am I having some kind of, disagreements with people in the team, and how am I managing that? So a little bit deeper into both aspects of the personal and then also the
Okay, I want to ask you to compare Minnesota with Kuala Lumpur or Subang or Sunway, where the area which Taylor's University is. I mean, these kids, do you think they come with enough a vocabulary to express their feelings? Is that, I mean, would you compare it to American kids? Do you think pretty much the same or what?
Well, that's one of the key things that we work on in the class. We also have a lot of different languages, coming into the classroom. But we have something we call the emotional wheel, which starts with the basic emotions, happy, sad, joyful, angry, and then it branches out. And we use that as a tool to help them get more vocabulary. So if you're happy, what kind of happy are you? Are you content? Are you excited? Proud? There's many different kinds of words. So we do focus a lot on that, trying to help them build their vocabulary, because if you don't have the words, it's very hard to get any deeper.
I wonder though, popular culture and mass, sort of mass entertainment and also the products that we consume all use these words too. Happiness and excitement and so on and so forth. But it's very, very narrowly cast, isn't it? I mean, where are you taking a discussion of happiness beyond smiling into a picture so that you can post it on Instagram?
Right. We often talk about how emotions change, that it's not realistic to be happy all the time. We're also going to be sad, and it's important to be sad. We might not like it, but it's important. It's important to get angry sometimes. But then how do we work with these emotions? How do we manage the anger, the sadness?
Okay, so there's a certain complexity to the kind of conversations that you're having with kids. What would you say to parents who do parents actually say, why are you wasting my kids' time? They're going to university to learn a skill and get a certificate. We're not paying big bucks to put them through some sort of fuzzy, kind of process. I mean, do you get that at all from parents?
I don't interact directly with the parents. But the university has what's called Taylor's graduate capabilities. So any student who goes to Taylor's is going to learn these 8 different skills. And personal competency is one of them. Social competency is another one. And they're moving towards giving students actually a GPAs in each. So they'll actually be assessed. How well are you at being empathetic? How are your communication skills? How well can you manage your emotions? So it's really, really becoming integrated into Taylor's University.
Okay, hopefully they don't get stressed out by that.
Right.
But okay, thank you very much, Petrina, for sharing your thoughts and also your personal journey on the show and helping me understand what mindfulness is.
Thank you very much.
Okay. I've been speaking to Petrina Eger. She's with the Life Skills team at Taylor's University, working on mindfulness. And obviously, there are a million podcasts out there to help you understand better what mindfulness is. Next time I'm on the treadmill, I'm going to plug into that rather than the usual stuff I do. Okay, that's all we have for Let's Talk today. You'll see me next week. I'm Sharaad Kuttan, only in Astro AWANI.